All right, so here's what we're going to do on the back. We are going to use our highlighters, and we're going to highlight exactly the same thing that I did on the front. This whole first column, you're going to highlight anything that's different from your parent function. So what do we see here? I see a -2 here. Is there anything else that you see? No. Okay, so I just have that one thing. All right, let's look at the second line. What do y'all see? Got a -3 here. What else? -3, but it's inside. All right, I don't see anything else in that one. So let's go to the next one. I've got a 4 here. Looks like I'm multiplying by 4. And then I'm going to add 2 right here. Okay, now be really careful when you hit to this one, okay? If you see a negative, that means that that's going to be a reflection. Do not highlight the negative with the 1/2 because those are 2 different transformations. So those will be separate. And then this one has a third one over here. So that one's got 3 different transformations that we have to describe in a second. Okay, take a second, look at the last one. I'm going to pause the video for just a second and then see if you can highlight all the different things in the last line. Okay, so on the last one, I've got a negative, which is going to reflect. I have a +2, and I have a -1. Okay, so I'm going to go back all the way up to the top, and I'm going to show you how to do the second column. So the second column is going to help you determine what's going on. Like, are we changing f of x, or are we changing just x? So I'm going to do a few for you. So this one, I am subtracting 2. I think everybody knows that. We are subtracting 2, but what are we subtracting it from? So we're subtracting it from the function, or are we subtracting it just from the x? What do you think? Now, if we were subtracting just from x, it would look like this, right? So is it from the function or just x? Function. So instead of me writing the word function, I'm just going to say f of x. Okay, second one. Now, I have 2 -3s in here. Each -3 does something different. So the yellow -3, I am subtracting. I didn't spell it right. I'm subtracting 3 from the function, right? Because it's at the end. But the blue one, though, I'm subtracting 3 from x. Do you see the difference? You need to see the difference because that changes your graph in different ways. Okay, one more. Okay, I'm going to skip. I'm going to go to the fourth line right here. This negative right here, that's going to reflect. Okay, it's going to reflect over which axis though? Is it the x or the y? It's going to reflect over the x-axis. Why? Because I'm multiplying -1 to the function. I am not multiplying -1 to x. If I was multiplying to x, it would look like that. Remember, the x would be wrapped in parentheses, and whatever it is would be with the x in parentheses. There's no parentheses in this one. Okay, this 1/2 right here, I'm multiplying 1/2. Am I multiplying it just to the x or to the entire function? It'll be the entire function. If it was just to x, it would look like this. It would look like 1/2 x wrapped in parentheses. Okay, and then the last one right here, this +5. So I'm adding 5 to, is it to the x or is it to the function? Which one is it? It's to the function, yes. Okay, go ahead and we're going to stop the video for a second. I want you to fill out this one and this one. Just write down what is going on. All right, so I've got this second part filled out. This 4 right here, we're multiplying to the entire function. And this plus 2, we're adding just to x. And then right here, we are multiplying x. See how it's inside the parentheses here? So we're multiplying to x. We're also multiplying 2 to the x. And then we're taking away 1 from the function. So what this is going to do is it's going to, change how our graph moves, okay? So if I go all the way back to the top and I subtract 2 from f of x, that's going to make that go down 2 units. So what we're doing is we're looking at what has changed. We're highlighting the changes. We're writing down whether those changes are to the x or the function. And then we're actually describing what the changes are. So let's look at the second one. So I had 2 changes. I'm both subtracting 3, but this one's going to make it go down 3 units, and then this one's going to make it go right 3. And it's all about where it is location-wise. Okay, so multiplying 4 to the function is going to cause a vertical stretch. And if you add 2 to x, if you add 2 to the function, it goes up. But if you add 2 to x, it goes left. All right, so let's write down what's going on. So if I multiply the function by 1/2, that means it is a vertical stretch with a factor of 1/2. Okay, the next one, adding 5 to the function, is going to make it go up 5 units. And I wrote too much. That should go right here. So it reflects over the x-axis. Now, I'm multiplying by -1 here, but it's just to the x. So it's going to reflect, but it'll be over the y-axis this time. So the placement of the negative changes how it reflects. I'm going to multiply 2 to x. So if it was 2 in front of the function, it would be vertical, but it's inside the parentheses, so it's horizontal. And then I'm going to figure out the factor before anything else. So it'll be the reciprocal. So it'll be a factor of 1/2, which makes that a shrink. And then this last one says you're subtracting 1 from the function, which means it's going to make it go down 1 unit. Okay, it is a lot to remember. It really is. And I have to think about it. So now we're going to go backwards. Starting with A, we want to translate our parent function down 5 units. Okay, so we're going to all start writing parent function. And then underneath it, what we're going to do is we're going to change it, just like we did on Desmos earlier. So what would I need to do if I want to make this thing move down 5 units? Just -5. Yep. You just have to be really careful. Where do you put the -5? Do you put it at the end, or do you put it with the x? So if you're going to go down 5, you just put it at the end. Okay, B. All of these start with parent functions. This one is written in function notation. It's not using words. It just shows you what to do. So if you notice it, it's basically telling you add 2 to the function. So I'm just going to go over here and I'm going to add 2 to it. So it'll just be +2. Okay, C says we're going to translate left 2. Now, y'all know if you want to go left or right, you have to use parentheses, so you got to be careful. So I'm going to start out with my parent function. I'm going to use parentheses. Left 2. +2, right? I always want to do like -2 for left, and that's wrong. Then it says up 1, so then I have to add 1 at the very end. So I'm adding 2 to x, and then I'm adding 1 to the function. All right, D. Reflect over the x-axis. So if something is reflecting over the x-axis, I know I multiply by -1 to the function. So it's going to go out in the front. But then it tells me I also want a vertical shrink. So a vertical shrink is also out in the front. I'm multiplying to the function. So I'm going to change that -1 to -1/3. So the negative makes it reflect. The 1/3 makes it shrink vertically. Final answer. Okay, so the first line is reflection only, and then the second line I have both of them. Okay, E. So this one's kind of a challenge for you. I want you on your dry erase board or on your paper. So you're going to pause the video, and I want you to look and see what E is asking you to do and write that answer down, and then we'll check it in a second. That's what I'm doing. Okay, here's what we're going to do. It tells you to multiply it by 4. So I'm going to put 4 in the front, and then it tells you to add 2 to x. So how do I add 2 to x? We're going to do this, like that. That's still going to be third to the third power. And then it tells you at the end, subtract 3. That's all you've got to do. That's it. Now, F and G, those are the ones that are going to be more likely to show up on your end of course because they want to challenge you on your end of course and your benchmark, okay? But y'all can do these. So the reason why this one's more difficult is because look at what you start with. You're starting with a trinomial. So I'm going to go ahead. No, we got room. Got room right here. We'll do right here. Okay, F tells you to translate down 5 units. No changes. So if I want to make it go down 5 units, all I would have to do is this, -5 at the end. Because it's to the whole function and it's not just to the x. Final answer though, you got to be careful. Final answer is going to be x to the third minus x squared minus 6. You've got to simplify what you're doing here. Okay, last one, G. And I promise you did this in chapter 1 and chapter 2. You have to reflect it. So it's telling you that they want you to write negative f of x. So you got to multiply the function by -1. How do you do that? You put a -1 out in the front, and you've got to multiply all of the functions. See how I put it in parentheses? So your final answer is going to be -x to the third plus x squared plus 1. You got to multiply the whole entire function by -1. So you got to be really careful if you're manipulating anything that has more than one term. Okay, so your homework is going to be, if you're a regular class, it's going to be the whole top line, but if you have honors, it's also going to be the second line as well.